Hey, what's up guys? Retro Gaming Guy here. So today in this video, we're going to unbox, demo, and review the brand new Kinhank Plug and Play Handheld Video Game Console. Now this is the K36 model. This is loaded with thousands of retro video games ready to go as soon as you power it up. So I don't know exactly what the game count is on here just yet, but we are certainly going to find out. So let's unbox this. We'll take a look at the layout and design, and then we'll boot it up, tour through what comes on here stock, and jump into some games to see what the performance is like. Let's dive into it. Let's go ahead and start opening this up. Excellent. I love the fact that we have a tutorial here. So all you have to do is scan the QR code right here, and you can actually jump right onto YouTube and watch this tutorial video on how you can add more games into the mix. So I love that they're including this in here. Now here we have the actual handheld. Let's go ahead and actually set that aside. I want to see what else is included in here first and foremost. So we've got ourselves a USB-A adapter here. Down here we have a micro SD card slot, so you can put the cards that are likely inserted already into the handheld in here, and that's a big part of how you would add more games or basically edit anything that's included. We also have a USB-A to Type-C cable right here. That's going to be your charging cable. We have our user manual in here, and I want to just open this up. Nicely lays out everything in terms of ports on here, controls, gives you all of your specs listed right here. And this is in a couple different languages. It also walks through some of the navigation of going through your settings. So pretty much got you completely covered there, which is great to see. I'm going to get all this out of the way. So now let's dive in here and take a look at the actual handheld. We have a nice foam insert there, but here is our handheld. So it's going to be that vertical Game Boy style handheld. We've got A, B, X, and Y 4-button configuration over here on the right-hand side. We've got our function button here, dead center. We've got a D-pad on the left-hand side. We've got a select button and a start button, dead center, and dual analog sticks, both with the button function on here. Kinhank's logo across the center. Definitely like this setup. I love the translucent, transparent sort of purple on here. Very much reminds me of that of like a kicked up Game Boy Color. Definitely got retro vibes. We've got the buns on the back here, which I've mentioned on past handhelds. I love these because it gives you something to grip onto here. It just stabilizes your gameplay experience. We've got our shoulder and trigger buttons on the back, so R1, R2, L1, and L2 located right here on the back side. So love what this offers in terms of layout here. But this, in terms of the screen size here, we've got a 3.5-inch IPS screen. I cannot wait to actually power this on. So let's see if we can peel off this little protector here. Oh, there we go. There's the little tab right there. And you can see instantly the gloss on that. I mean, you can see the reflection of my, overhead lights here. Super glossy. Over here on the left-hand side, we've got our volume control right here. So plus to bring the volume up, minus to bring it down. On the other side, we've got our power button, reset button, and then we have our micro SD card slot right below that. And this is definitely recessed in there considerably. Just gonna grab my pen right here, and we're just gonna press that in to eject it. I want to see the capacity of the included card. We have 64 gigabytes on here. Now this is a generic card, so I definitely recommend backing it up just because I do find generic cards to be less reliable than that of like a SanDisk or Samsung micro SD card. But 64 gigabytes should give us a decent amount of games. Now if we go up here to the top, we have 2 Type-C ports. And if we wanted to obviously go in here, and I'm trying to see the labeling on here. If we wanted to charge this with the provided USB-A to Type-C cable, we'd go ahead and plug it in right there. We have an audio jack over here as well. And I think that's everything. Oh, speaker down here at the bottom. I definitely like the speaker placement on here because, oftentimes we'll see speakers on the sides or sometimes even in the corners of the control deck. And that can just get distorted based on where your hands go on here. With the speakers being down here at the bottom, you're never going to be, kind of obstructing those or anything like that. Your hands are never going to be over them like this. So I think that's a good placement. But let's power this on and see what this has to offer us. What we'll do next is we'll tour through what's included on the micro SD card, and then we'll jump into a bunch of games to test out the performance. All right, so here we are in the all games list. I just brought the volume down just so I'm not talking over it. I'll kick the volume up when we jump into the gameplay demos, but All games is going to be our all games list, just as it says. It's our master list. It includes every single game that's included on here. And we've got 9,492 total games. Let's jump in here with the A button. You can see how everything's laid out. Text list on the left-hand side, screenshot for each title on the right. Gives us a little bit of information on each game as well. On the bottom right corner, it gives us a little description. So you can easily find everything in here, just like so. It's in alphabetical order, so we have all of our numbers. Then it'll go to A, B, C, D, and so on. So here we have 2-on-2 Open Ice Challenge. Love this game. It's one of my all-time favorite classic arcade games. Let's back out, though. We'll go collection by collection. So we can go down, or you can go to the right, whatever you want to do. We're going to go down, though. So next one's going to be favorites. No games in there. This is going to be a custom collection you put together yourself. Add all your favorite games in here for easy access. So if you like Mario Kart 64, you add Mario Kart 64 in there, you can find it very easily every single time without having to comb through a wide range of titles in, different collections. Final Burn Neo over here with 2,219 games. Jump in here and see what it looks like. We saw some of those titles already, but as you scroll down, you can see beautifully scraped. I mean, every single game has the same sort of layout. We have the screenshot for every game, which is pretty cool. Very easy to locate what you're looking for. And again, this collection, 2,219 games. We'll keep it moving. IGS, 29 games. We have MAME over here with 52 games. And you can see MAME is going to be very similar to that of Final Burn Neo. So this one has the, the deeper collection, but MAME is going to give you some additional titles. We have Aladdin right there up at the top, Alien Challenge, bunch of great games. You can see scraped beautifully, very seamless in how it's laid out here with those screenshots. Text list on the left, alphabetical order, very easy to access. We'll back out. Next one's going to be Atari 2600 with 650 games. And I like this background here. Very sharp design on here. Definitely cool. This isn't a collection I dive into all that much, but I have jumped down the rabbit hole with Atari 2600 through emulation, and it's been a great experience. So definitely not something you want to sleep on. Atari 5200 with 68 games. We've got Atari 7800 with 61 games. Atari Lynx with 76 games. Wonder Swan with 109 games. We've got Wonder Swan Color with 90 games. Capcom System 1 with 31 games. And look at that, they're all Capcom titles. That's awesome. Sometimes these Capcom collections will blow you away because you find a lot of games in there sometimes with different plug-and-plays that don't belong anywhere in a Capcom collection. So Capcom System 2 with 37 games. The counts on these are perfect. Go down here, 6 games for Capcom System 3, which is accurate. So I love that. That's awesome. Amiga, 1,800 and, is that 52 or 32? 52. All right. 1,852 titles in Amiga. And again, same layout exactly. I love how they are doing this collection by collection. Sometimes you'll find collections with these plug and plays where everything's scraped nicely for the first couple of collections, and then you go into the next handful of collections and nothing scraped at all. So we're not seeing that here. I love that. We'll back out. We have MSX with 184 or 64? 184 games. Sorry, I'm a little bit far away with the camera today. So 184 games in MSX. MSX2, we have 119 games. PC Engine, 267 games. 287 games. Super Graphics, 291 games. Pokemon Mini, 17 games. Atomis Wave, 6 games. SG-1000 from Sega with 73 games. Next one down is Sega Master System with 329 games. Sega Genesis with 892 games. Game Gear from Sega as well, 335. Sega Mega Drive, 809. Genesis 32X with 36 games. We've got Sega CD with 8 games. Sega Saturn with 12 games. Sega Dreamcast with 4 games. And I want to see what Dreamcast games we have. We have Crazy Taxi 1 and 2. All right, Power Stone's in there. And, all right. I mean, decent collection. I wish there was a lot more, obviously, but 4 games is still 4 games. Sega Saturn, what do we have in here? We have some Castlevania, Cyber Speedway. We've got, all right, decent stuff in here. Mortal Kombat Trilogy is a great one. Some Sonic Jam. We've got Street Fighter Alpha. All right, so decent games. I mean, I wish there were more, not going to lie, but that's where, you take that tutorial QR code, scan it, jump onto YouTube, and you learn how to add some additional games to this, and you can flash this 62 gigabyte setup onto a 512 gigabyte setup. and you have all that extra room to add your own titles. So it's a no-brainer there. Sega Naomi over here. If we jump in here, we've got, let's see, Giant Graham 2000. That's a good one. Giga Wing, Power Stone. All right, so decent in there. Again, wish there were more, but that's where we can go ahead and, start customizing our experience on our own. X68000 from Sharp, 345 games. Neo Geo, 118 games. Neo Geo Pocket, 10 games. Neo Geo Pocket Color, 40 games. Sony PlayStation, 19 games. What do we have for PlayStation? Do we have Tekken in here? We got to have Tekken. Casper, some Castlevania. See WWF WrestleMania down there, which is a good one. But it doesn't look like we have Tekken. That's too bad. We don't have Tekken, so we got to add that ourselves for sure on here. Got to have Tekken. Next collection down is Sony PSP with 25 games. If we jump in here, I believe, let's see. Yeah, these are all true PSP games. So we got some Burnout in here, some Dragon Ball Z, some Final Fantasy, some Metal Slug Anthology. We have Ridge Racer. We have Ridge Racer in here. That's my all-time favorite PSP game. So X-Men Legends 2 I see as well. So definitely some cool titles for PSP. We'll back out. PSP Minis. All right, so we have 220 PSP Minis games in here. 220 is going to be a really deep collection. I saw some Angry Birds in here. Definitely some cool PSP Minis games. Never got into them as much as regular true PSP, but over here we have Supervision, 45 games, and we're back to our all games lists. All right, guys, my first impressions are it seems like a great handheld. I love the fact that it's loaded with Sega games. I'm a Sega guy over Nintendo, always have been. I grew up playing the Sega consoles and Sega games in arcades more so than Nintendo. So for me, this has everything that I'm looking for, but I can certainly acknowledge the fact that it's missing Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, N64, and NES Super Nintendo at the very least here. So no Nintendo has been included in the mix. I get why. They're trying to be less controversial. Obviously, Nintendo is definitely cracking down on emulation devices and emulation in general these days. So I get it. That's why they have that tutorial QR code for you so you can learn how to add games. And I can assure you that adding N64, Super Nintendo, NES, and all the other Nintendo collections is very easy to do. However, it is more legwork for the user in the end. But let's dive into this. Let's test out what the performance is like. And I think from that, we'll be able to gauge whether it would be able to get us into N64 effectively or not. So let's dive into some games and see what the performance is like.
Hop in. You're styling. Take me to the cable car. Okay, here we go. Careful. No straight. Yeah, I got it. I told you so. Oh, you're in a hurry, right? Bertie, you better jump. Take me to the cable car. Right? Kurt, pay more attention. Yeah, I got it. Kurt, pay more attention.
All right, guys, we jumped in here. We checked out the Kinhank Plug and Play Handheld Video Game Console, and I was super excited for this. I'm I won't say I'm a huge fan of Kinhank, but I'm a fan of what they're doing to an extent. They have gotten much better over the last year and a half, I would say, with their plug and play setups, with their plug and play game consoles, and this being the first handheld, I was really excited to see what it had to offer. I love the layout and design. We've seen this layout and design from a wide range of different manufacturers, different models out there. Ambernick has one, Powkitty has one. Very popular, layout here, and I'm a big fan of it. It's basically a remixed version of the Game Boy Color. Love the atomic purple here with the translucent, transparent sort of vibe. Buttons on here function perfectly. They are a little bit smaller than what we're used to on handhelds, I will say that, but still, functionality is perfect here. Very reliable experience. D-pad's great. Analog sticks are pretty much the exact same analog sticks that we see on all these handhelds these days, whether it's Ambernick, Powkitty, or Kinhank here now, they're using the exact same analog stick. So if you've played with one, they're pretty much all the same. They're good. They're not bad by any means. A little bit smaller scale than what we're used to on your standard gamepad controller, so it takes a little adjusting, but once you get the feel for it, it is a good experience. Love the shoulder and trigger buttons on the backside here. Key placement, they're actually tapered off too, so feels very comfortable to hit those on the backside. We even have a pair of cheeks on the back. Who doesn't like a nice pair of cheeks? These are great for stabilizing your experience here gaming on here. So really comfortable to grab onto those cheeks and play your favorite games. The volume control is external here, so always good to be able to adjust your volume levels because not all retro games are on the same level. You will have to up typically like Classic Arcade. I always feel like I have to crank that one, lower it with some of the other collections. So nice to be able to do that externally here. And then that other side here, the only other thing I want to point out is the micro SD card slot. It's recessed in here very nicely. In fact, I had to use the tip of a pen in order to disengage this and eject the micro SD card. I like that, even though it's inconvenient, because I don't want to run the risk of just kind of going down the side of the handheld and disengaging and ejecting that micro SD card while this is powered on and in use. That's a great way to corrupt your card and to end up with a handheld like this that has nothing to offer. So great that it's recessed in there and it's safe. The only thing that I wish this had is a HDMI port up here at the top. Typically, this is becoming more and more standard with handhelds, especially those that follow this exact sort of mold here, if you will. I'd love to see a mini HDMI port up here so you could take a mini HDMI to regular HDMI cable, plug this into your console, and then plug it into a TV or monitor and essentially use this as your controller. That would be outstanding. That would just be, another way that you could use this. So it falls a little bit short not having that feature that we are seeing become more and more prominent in these handhelds. Now, in terms of performance, well, before I talk about performance, let's talk about the layout of everything internally once you boot this up. It's scraped beautifully. Everything is consistent. Very easy to find the titles that you're looking for. There's a search function. There's also everything in alphabetical order, which if you've seen any of my review videos in the past, you know that that's exactly what I'm looking for because everyone wants to be able to find what they want to find, effortlessly. You don't want to have to just scroll through thousands and thousands of games hoping that you stumble across what you're looking for. When it's in alphabetical order, you can at least navigate it effectively. Over 9,000 games on here, so tons of games. Now, there's no Nintendo games, though, and I want to address this because I understand why they're left off. Nintendo is cracking down on emulation, ROMs, plug and plays. I get it. I respect it. Now, does this add additional steps for the user at the end of the day? 100%. But luckily, they do provide you with that QR code that will actually bring you to a YouTube video where they walk you through the process of adding games into this. That's crucial. I think that's going to make it much easier for people to add the games that they want. So your Donkey Kong Country, your Mario Karts, your Super Mario Brothers, your Kirby games, all that stuff you can add in yourself, and it's really not that difficult to do. They provide everything that you need actually in here as well. You have that little USB micro SD card reader and writer, so you can customize your experience. You just have to do some of the work yourself. So inconvenient, yes, but I get it at the end of the day. So that's, definitely going to add some extra work for the user, worth mentioning, even though I do understand where they're coming from with that. But let's talk about performance now. This falls short in terms of the performance, in my opinion. I was expecting this to handle Dreamcast without an issue, PlayStation without an issue, PSP. Sometimes you have some setbacks with PSP, but usually it's a decent experience. Unfortunately, that's not the case here. Dreamcast was a little bit wonky. It was, it's playable, I would say, but audio especially is in and out. It's just clear that you're really pushing this to the max. N64 is not included on here. PlayStation is on here. PlayStation's decent. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's decent. PSP is an absolute disaster. Can you go in here and customize your settings to better the experience? Slightly, but is it going to be perfect by any means? Absolutely not. It's going to be so far from perfect, I would say, it's not even playable. Sega Saturn, very similar to Dreamcast. Some games work okay, some games don't work okay at all. It's just very hit or miss, very all over the place. And N64, because it's part of the Nintendo family, was left off of here. I do believe, based on what I saw with Dreamcast and PlayStation, that some N64 games would work on here, but I don't think it would be perfect or anywhere near perfect. I think it's going to be a little bit laggy in most cases. I think you're going to have random interruptions and stuff like that. I think your audio is going to be all out of whack, to be perfectly honest. I think it's going to be okay here and there, and then it's just going to have these random hiccups that are frustrating. So I don't think that this has enough power to effortlessly nail everything effectively. So I think you're going to be let down by a lot of what this has to offer. Even classic arcade, I jumped into some classic arcade games that were laggy and the audio was garbled, and just clear indication that there's not enough power in here to effectively emulate some of those titles. Jumped into 2-on-2 Open Ice Challenge, which, audio aside, because the audio levels on that are very low, but even that considered into it, it's still laggy. It's still not a great experience. It's not smooth. It's not what we all would want to experience on a handheld. And that's not that demanding of a title. So that's definitely a red flag for me. So unfortunately, I think that this underperforms. It's great for your classic retro home console collections, Genesis, Master System. It would be fine for NES and Super Nintendo if you added that into the mix yourself. But unfortunately, I'm just not a fan of where everything is, stock right out of the gate here. As soon as you open the box, I want to be able to play these games without twisting the settings around and altering things like that. I don't want to have, shoddy audio. I don't want to have hiccups in the gameplay that make it just an awkward and, at times unfun experience. So it looks great. It would be great to the right person, I suppose, would be the most positive spin that I can have on this. If you like Sonic the Hedgehog, you will have a blast playing it on this. But if you're looking for anything remotely demanding or advanced, it's going to fall flat on its face. So, take into consideration, if you can get this at a great price point, then it could be worth it for you. But if you're hoping for those higher end, retro games to work, I think you're going to be in for a headache. So let me know what you guys think. If you have one of these, let me know what your experience has been like with this Kinhank Plug and Play handheld game console. If you want to get additional information on this, I'll provide you with a link at the top of your screen, as well as in the description of this video. But yeah, that's my take on it. It falls a little bit flat, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think, though, in the comments of this video. You guys know the deal. If you enjoyed the heads up on this product, you enjoyed my insight into what my experience was like, please give me a thumbs up on the video. It's a huge help to me here on YouTube. Of course, hit subscribe to stay in the loop for all future videos. And if you like wrestling, check out the Marcus Buff Bagwell YouTube channel that I co-host the podcast side of and produce all of the video content for. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.